Hey everyone, it's Helene from Virtual Veg Fest and Plant Based Network and Veg Fest Expos and Triangle Veg Fest. And we are happy Saturday because it's our live talk for Saturday this week. It's our second one. So we're going to talk food today. We were going to do a cooking demo, but Alan hurt his back. And I completely understand and can empathize with that because I have a bad back as well. So instead of canceling this or moving it to somebody else, we decided to continue to do it. But we're going to talk food, which I think everybody out there absolutely loves. Now, this is one person that I have not met before, but he is part of Book Publishing Company. Thank you to them for sponsoring our live talks this week. So I've worked for Book Publishing Company, and Ellen Jaffe-Jones and Joel Kahn have been on the Virtual Veg Fest Live, and now it's Ellen Roettingers. Is that how you say your last name?
Oh, I've had it said a number of ways. Rotten finger. You've been to grade school, high school. Right? I call it Roettinger, actually, but it's German. It's Roettinger, but who's going to say that, right?
Right. So this is Alan, and he's incredibly funny. We've spent a few minutes this afternoon, and yesterday evening talking to make sure that technically we have everything ready to go for this talk. And he has written a bunch of books, one of which he's done with Ellen Jaffe-Jones, which is Paleo Vegan. And, we've interviewed Ellen, and she's one of my closest friends, and I absolutely love her. So between Book Publishing Company and Ellen and everything else, I think Alan is going to be a great person to talk to today. Now, if you're watching or you're listening, please mention something in the comments, say hello, where you're from. And if you have any questions, please feel free to write them and we will respond to them as we're going through our talk today. So I'm going to throw it at Alan so he can tell you more about him. And he's got an eclectic, interesting background, which I definitely want to delve into. So tell us more, Alan.
Starting how far back?
Birth? No, sorry.
Birth. I was born in Alexandria, I like to say, but it's not Egypt, it's Virginia. And I left when I was 2. I didn't leave. My parents took me to Mexico, and I grew up in Mexico City. So I was exposed to incredible food from early on. In fact, when I was 2, terrible 2s, interesting story. My mother would leave me. We had maids because, Americans. We were middle class in the United States. We were millionaires in Mexico. So we had maids. And they were in charge of me when my mother would leave the house. And of course, I was a horrible person at age 2. And so when I was naughty, they couldn't hit me because, leave scars. So they would take a green chili and they would cut it and they would rub it on my tongue. And then if I was really naughty, they would rub some on the rim of a glass and hand me some water. So that was my introduction to food. And I got used to spicy food, and I've loved spicy food ever since. My parents wouldn't eat Mexican food, ever. My father, very simple taste. I mean, he was an incredibly fun-loving, adventurous, amazing guy. But his food tastes were pathetic. To him, a sandwich was just like white bread with butter and some kind of meat. No sauce, no tomato, no lettuce, nothing. And that was his idea. So my mother she had like maybe 8 or 9 American menus, the fried chicken with the cornflake crust, the whole thing. And she taught them, and Mexicans are incredible. You show them something one time, si senora, and they'll do it exactly like that forever. They don't get bored. They don't care. It's not their food. You want to eat this? Fine. Here it is. Just like you asked me to. And so we would just like, if it's Friday, it's fried chicken. And then there was the spaghetti with meatballs and the whole thing. Now, I would come home from school. The first thing I would do is I would run in the kitchen. I would get a tortilla and heat it over the open flame because I was like 10, I would just do that. It was fun. And put a little butter on it, a little salt. And to me, still, that's the snack. I don't put butter. I put coconut oil. I think it's even better. So then I would go eat the dinner with my parents. And then I had a voracious appetite. So they would go on about their business. And then I'd go in the kitchen, which is when they would start making their food. And when I would watch them make our food, it was kind of relatively boring to watch. It was just nothing. And then when they'd make their food, I mean, they had this volcanic stone mortar called the molcajete, and they would grind up the spices and the tomato, and then they throw it in the shh, and the steam would fly up, and sometimes it'd catch fire. It was like alchemy, and I was like, oh. And then they would always let me have some. They would give me some, and that was to me that was my introduction to real food, people's food, really ethnic, exciting food. So that's my original background. And then I went to boarding school in Texas for a year and 3/4. 3/4 meaning that I was withdrawn prior to the end of the second year. I didn't do well with religion or education, really. And I really didn't do well with dorms. So it didn't last. And then they brought me back. And then I graduated from high school in Mexico. And then I went to, this incredible thing happened. My parents, who had fought like cats and dogs the whole life that I knew them together, drove me the day after I graduated from high school to the airport and put me on a plane where I flew to Europe. And then they went to divorce court and never saw them again until my wedding day, 25 years later. But I landed in this place called Luxembourg, which is like it's like a storybook kingdom. It's really incredible. And I was all starry-eyed, and I went into a restaurant, and I'll never forget. Wasn't a major. It was like a little bistro, like a little neighborhood restaurant. Nothing special. And on the menu, I saw cream of crab, and I've gone vegan since. But anyway, I like crab, so because I tried things, So I took a spoonful of this soup, I put it in my mouth, and it was like, oh my God. I had never experienced layers of flavor and depth. It was like, okay, this is the place I want to be. And so I traveled around for 3 months. In those days, my father gave me $1,700. And in those days, I lasted 3 months, and I didn't stay in cheap hotels. It was exciting. I went up and down the whole continent and eating my way through it. And then I ran out of money. I flew back. And then my father said, well, work or school. That was his thing. So I said, I found this really cool college in Switzerland. So he said, really? You're going back? I just sent you there. I said, yeah. I said, okay. So I went back and I went to college in the Italian part of Switzerland. And of course, food, in Italy. And we were always traveling. And it was always my thing. I lived in a 400-year-old stone house with 3 other guys because it was cheap. It cost like $25 a month in this little medieval village. And I would cook. That was my thing. So I just, I read a chef, I can't remember the name of the chef, but he quotes is, you don't choose this profession, it chooses you. It's kind of like, you find yourself doing it, and then it becomes the only thing you know how to do. Then you just got to do it. And from then I went to become a private chef for millionaires and billionaires. I mean, there was some stuff in the middle where I was painting houses and trying to get by, but yeah. And then eventually I got pretty good at it, and people were willing to pay me huge sums of money to do it for them. And then I don't know how I got involved with book publishing. The first book was Omega-3 Cuisine, which I wrote with Udo Erasmus, and I kind of grandfathered me in because he was famous. He had sold a lot of books, and so I was the author, but he was the name. And then I just said to our publisher, I said, give me another project. And he said, okay, vegan quick. I said, what? He said, because I was eating everything. I mean, foie gras, anything exotic. And he said, yeah, vegan recipes you can do in 30 minutes or less. I said, fine, I can do that. So I did. And it did, it was in the editorial process. And I had written in the introduction that these recipes should please everyone because they're written for an omnivore's palate, which I considered the widest palate, right? The highest common denominator, right? And I said they just happen to be vegan, so they should please everyone, including the vegans. And my editor wrote me a nice little note saying, most of the people who are going to buy this book are vegans, and they might not take kindly to you say that they just, like it was an afterthought. They're going to want a little more support than that. So maybe you would like to rewrite that little bit right there. And I thought about it. I said, yeah, true. It's a little flippant, and And I thought about it, and my cholesterol was going like up every year. It was like not even like the stock market, like it goes up and down. It was just going straight up. And it was I think it was like 289. And my doctor was on my case, like, put you on statins, and it's like, read me the side effects. Yeah, okay, no statins. And he was like, well, what are you gonna do? You can't just let it go. You got to do something. And it was like everything that I'd been reading, because while I was writing the book, I was reading vegan stuff. And I read Jonathan Safran Foer's incredible book, was it called Eating Animals? And I loved that book because there was no blaming and shaming. There was no. It was just a straight ahead, like a journalist. This is what happens. This is the way it is. And each chapter was a different animal, and how it goes. And the one that got me most, for some reason, was the eggs, which I always, even when I was vegetarian back in the 70s, what's the deal? I mean, who gets hurt, right?
Right.
It's just an egg. They're not even alive yet. A lot of them aren't even fertilized, so they're not going to be alive. What's the big deal? And then I saw it. It's like, you have the book like this, and then there's this little rectangle about like maybe half inch from the border, from the side of the page. And it said, this is the space that an egg laying hen will live its entire life. And I was like, I mean, even if you don't care about the animal, you really want to eat something that came out of an animal that was like so stressed and uncomfortable and unhappy and miserable and lonely. I mean, everything, because imagine yourself, I can do this. I can imagine myself in a space like that, and, not even able to move. And it planted a seed there. And I was thinking about it the whole time. And then when my doctor said that, I said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go on a strict vegan diet. And I'm going to train and run the Pikes Peak Ascent. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's a race that they run here. Starts at 6,000 feet, fire off a gun at like 6 a.m, and you start running, and you run up to 14,115, whatever it is. And he goes, well, we can see that works, because he's, doctors here, I'm going on a diet all the time. I said, well, you don't know me very well, but I had eggs and bacon for breakfast, and that's it. I'm not going to eat another animal product for at least a year. He said, well, okay, I'll have you come back in 3 months, and we'll see if it's doing any good at all. Fine. Came back. It had gone from 289 to 208. And that summer, I went to Summerfest, and Dr. Greger was there with his little tester. It was 130. And not only that, but after just 3 days, I felt so much better physically. I mean, I'm what am I, 68? I feel better than when I was 40, because I'm not storing all this stuff. And that's kind of like my story. I hope I didn't go on too long. You jump in and say something.
No, I mean, you bringing up eggs and the chickens is incredibly important, because even if you think people buy eggs and they think free range, grass-fed, organic, they don't realize or recognize the fact that the chickens are, instead of in the cages, they're in like a big warehouse, and there's like hundreds of thousands
That's
of
free
chickens.
range.
And that's the free range. And the only reason they're considered free range is they open a little door, and like 5 of them get to go out on a continual basis.
Concrete slab.
Right. And not necessarily the same chickens get to go out in that time, but that gives them the ability to label it.
A lot of times they fight to get out the door.
And people don't recognize, and the stench, like you couldn't walk in there and feel comfortable. Like it's the aroma. They're peeing, they're pooping, no one's cleaning up because no one goes in there.
Not an aroma.
Yes, an aroma. And it's just absolutely horrendous. So thank you for sharing what your destiny was, or the way you got to where you are now, because that's important, because obviously it didn't last just a year. You've written additional books, and
I've written additional books.
And you're still vegan. So, and you feel healthy at your age. So that's absolutely incredible. Outside of the bad back, which, that has nothing to do with anything else.
I'm sorry. If I'd have known, I feel actually pretty good today.
Yes. Well, it's too bad, but that's okay. What were you going to cook in the cooking demo, just so we know?
Well, I was going to make Where's that book? I think there's a picture of it in here. I was going to make one of my favorites actually, and people always say, "What's your favorite recipe?" It's like, "Oh, really? I got how many have I made? Something, like I make them and forget them, But it's the Penang curry. Where is it? I think it's right in here somewhere. Penang curry salad with or edamame salad with Penang curry or whatever it is. I'm trying to find it. Maybe I'll remember the name of it. There's a picture. We're looking for the picture. Well, anyway, it's in here somewhere. Hey, is this it? No. Yeah, I was going to do that, and then I was going to do a chocolate pot de creme from Speed Vegan. There it is. Where is it? Okay, deal. Where's the bloody camera? There it is.
It's a little blurry. For the
That's in there. Anyway, terrible lighting. But anyway, it's a very, very easy salad, very simple, and it's packed with flavor because it's got this Penang curry. And if you can't find Penang curry, you can use red curry. And she's laughing. It's great. Got to go on. And then the pot de creme is like so simple. You put chopped chocolate in a blender. I was going to do a mint version, but the one that in the book has got basil and a little vanilla, a little agave nectar if you want. I like it just really dark, but and then just pour in hot coconut milk, blast it to smithereens, pour through a strainer because sometimes there's little bits, and you want it smooth and creamy into a little cup, series of cups. Put them in the fridge, and it's just like, anybody ever have chocolate pot de creme? It's really like, but it's made with eggs, cream, and sugar, and I had none of those in there. It was quite good actually. So that's what I was going to make next time.
So the chocolate would firm up with just the milk, the vegan milk, the John Dairy milk.
Yeah, I mean, if you have, I think I don't remember what the proportions I put in there. I think it's like 5 ounces, 4 or 5 ounces of chopped chocolate. Right. You put it in the blender. You don't turn it on yet.
Right.
You put it in the blender, and then whatever you're going to flavoring agents are going to be in there, and then you pour in a can of coconut milk. So one can of coconut milk to 5 ounces of chocolate. It's like making truffles, only a little bit more on the loose side, right, on the soft side. So you after refrigerate it, it's not hard. It's kind of like.
So you're talking, right? So instead of like an almond milk or something like that, you're actually using the canned coconut milk. So it's got the extra fat and the thickening.
You could use almond milk. You could use almond milk.
Would it still thicken though?
I mean, it's really, huh?
Would it still thicken though if you used almond milk?
Of course, you could use water. The only thing with water is that in fact, I have a number of I do a water ganache for my truffles, and it's a question of how much water to chocolate. If you use water, you have to use a little bit more chocolate. Mm-hmm. And what I do is I add a little oil. What I add, I don't know if you're familiar with Udo's oil. It's a omega-3 fat oil, and it's actually good for you. So you add that at the end to bring back that kind of that mouthfeel of creaminess, mm-hmm. Oil. Yeah,
no, that's really cool.
It's a question of how much liquid to how much chocolate.
Right, that makes sense because the chocolate's going to solidify in the end, no matter what happens. Absolutely. So, right.
Yeah, it's going to go back to its original state, and especially when you make it cold because it's firm at room temperature.
Right.
So when you make it cold,
Oh no, that sounds delicious. That's something that's very. You said 30 minutes or less. So Speed Vegan, that's the first book, 30 minutes or less.
Oh, that's like 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah. And a high-speed blender would probably be best, right? A Vitamix, a Blendtec, now a Ninja.
You don't even have to strain
it. You can do a food processor, right? As well.
Yeah, but food processor is a hassle to clean. I use a food processor rarely, because by the time you get it out, you put everything in it, you blast it, you scrape it out, then you got to wash it. And by then most of it I could have done with a knife, in like a third of the time.
Yes, it's true.
And better.
That's very true. I use my Vitamix more than I use my food processor.
Yeah, the Vitamix, like you put some more soapy water in it, you're done. Very easy to clean.
Exactly. So one of the things that I read in your bio, which I found to be really interesting, is that you've been a personal chef for many famous people. You said a president, a prime minister you've cooked for. So can you tell us more about that?
Well, it was President Bill Clinton.
Hmm.
He was a house guest at a billionaire's house where I worked. Uh, I won't say anything about him because I was very disappointed. No, I thought highly of him as a president, not as a person, but as a president, he was extremely effective. I mean, because he came in, it was in the middle of the whole scandal, the whole Lewinsky thing, and you would not have known that number one, there was a scandal going on in his life, or that he was embarrassed about anything, or that he was carrying a weight of. He was just doing his job, and he was very effective. You, policies, etc. aside, he was very effective as a president. I was not impressed with him as a person, though. Anyway, I learned a lot about what politicians really are. They have a face that they put on. I literally watched him become Bill Clinton for the cameras.
Right.
It was interesting. Anyway, so yeah, and then also with same house I worked, they one of the house guests was Shimon Peres, the Prime Minister of Israel. A
Wow.
fabulous guy, really a sweet man. Him I was
Wow.
impressed by, but he wasn't Prime Minister anymore, so maybe he was off the hook. And many movie stars and actors and people that I've worked or that were guests at a house where I worked. I have a long list, 3 columns of people that I've worked that are famous.
Oh,
But you know what I
that's
learned about famous people?
what?
They're just people. They're
There's
just
people.
people. They're just people,
Yeah.
and a lot of them aren't even very nice. Because I learned this early on. Power, wealth, and fame, they come and they go. You know, if you and they don't guarantee you're going to be a decent human being. In fact, a lot of them, it adds more challenge because when you're famous, you feel like you have to be somebody. But kindness, when someone displays kindness, that's a human being. That's somebody I can respect because it takes a lot. You have to feel for people. You have to empathize. Because why would you be kind if you didn't see somebody on the receiving end needing that kindness and wanting that kindness and appreciating it? And you have it. We all have kindness, but it takes a person who is not full of ego and pride and ambition and everything to just. And when I see that in somebody who's rich, when I see that in somebody who's famous, and I have some of the people I work for, class A human beings, just treated me just like another person, didn't talk down to me, didn't feel like because they paid me they could slap me around. And so that's it. I mean, to me, kindness is what shows. And in kindness comes compassion and all of that other stuff because you can't have one without the other.
That's true.
So there I go.
That's really true. And
Yeah.
your cooking for people that were famous really influenced your style of cooking too, right?
No, I think my cooking style influenced them. No, well, because I never trained. I never went to work in a restaurant to be trained. The restaurants that I worked in after I learned what I knew. I mean, I always cooked and I got pretty good at it. And then I started out with some people who were very tolerant and just threw money at me, said, okay, make us nice food. And then they would ask me for stuff. And can you make a salmon mousse? And I would go, sure. Then I would go look at a book. And I remember that salmon mousse they asked me to make. And they were very, very discriminating gourmets. This guy, I learned a lot from this guy. He had this attitude that I know I'm not going to die if I don't eat one day, but I'm not going to eat that. you know, if he put it in his mouth and it didn't appeal to him, that was it. He would not give it another bite. No, that's just not what I want. And they're very kind, very polite. They didn't yell at me like, you idiot, you made terrible food. They just wouldn't eat it. So they asked for the salmon mousse, and they had cookbooks back there, all these fancy French ones, and Paul Bocuse and all these people who I later learned actually make the recipes so you cannot successfully do the thing that they did. And they were all different. One was cooked, one was this, and it was hot, and one was cold, and one of them had cream. And I thought, well, the creamy one's bound to be good. So I picked the creamy one, the cold one with the cream in it. made. I had never eaten a salmon. My parents never ate fish, so I made it, and it was served in a little ramekin, and so the butler goes in, the butler comes out. I was like, well, that was quick. And I looked down, and he had the tray, and one of them had 4 little holes in it, like from a fork. And I said, didn't even taste it. And he goes, nope. I said, did they say anything? Nope. Okay, so I better learn how to cook. I better get it together because obviously, you know, I'm not fooling around with just anybody. These people really have high discriminating tastes. And to me, that was like setting the bar really high, which was exciting. I mean, it was intimidating, but it was exciting because it was like, so if I can make them happy, then I'm really doing something. And that to me that's art. You know, when you, it's not, you're not just slinging hash here. You're trying to create something that somebody can go, now that's good. And so for 3 years after that, I mean, I was every day I was just trying to come up with something that would really hit the spot. And when I was done there, I could write my own ticket. After that, they split up. One of them moved to Connecticut. The other one, I don't know where he went. And I was on my own. I was actually sharing an apartment with my sister who was living. This was in Miami Beach, and I was like, I mean, I could float on her. You know, she was renting the place anyway, so I kind of had a free place to live, but I had to pull my own weight, and I also had ambitions. So I wanted to do something, but I didn't know what. So I just printed up a card that said "Fine Catering" with my name and my phone number, not even an address, really, no office, nothing, and started handing it to people. And so that some I don't remember what the first one I got, but it was this weird family. They were having a some kind of a extended family thing, but like I think it was 30 people. I had never cooked for that many people at once. I mean, a family of 5, you know, and I pulled it off. And then it started moving, and finally I was actually holding my own in Miami for like it was like a year and a half. And then a guy that had eaten the food that I had served at that nice house called me on the phone, hired me over the phone, flew me out to California, Malibu, and I had like a 2-week trial, and that was done deal. I think it was kind of understood that from the beginning that he was going to hire me, and that lasted 8 months. Typically, millionaires and billionaires, a long stint is rare, unless they're stodgy old people that just don't want to try anybody new. 8 months, and then I worked for another guy for 6 years. He was a horrible guy. He was like I don't know. I can't say the word. Starts with a T. Egotistical. He was like a mini version of that, wanting to get to that level, and just boastful and brash and crass and everything. But he was gone 6 months out of the year, and he had to pay me anyway. So, and I was living in the nice beach house in Malibu. So I worked for him for 6 months, and then I would do catering gigs on the side. And then I started meeting some actually cool rich people, some people that were fun to work for, movie stars, musicians. And I found the people who earned their money, got rich as a consequence of doing what they really love to do, like artists, musicians, actors, generally were down to earth, decent people. The ones that were earning money because they wanted power and fame and wealth and all that, they were usually jerks because that was their thing was pushing the other people down to get to the top of the heap. And people that just got rich because they were good at it. Those are usually the people I got to where I could tell in the interview. I interviewed for Harvey Weinstein.
Oh,
I never met him. His and I can tell this now because everybody knows. And the rule is, the operative word in private chef is private. The chef is kind of like secondary because they don't want somebody spilling beans on all their stuff. But anyway, the house manager said, "This is I have to tell you up front, this is a very crazy house." I said, "Well, I can do crazy. It's no problem. I can handle it." She goes, "No, this is a very, very crazy house." I said, "Well, can you elaborate? She goes, well, Mr. Weinstein hates it when his wife is late. And Mrs. Weinstein is always late. And I said, so what happens? She goes, he becomes very angry. I said, but how? He goes, he froths at the mouth. I said, thank you so much for telling me. I'm really not interested. uh, just a little story.
It's really funny. All right, let's go into some vegan stuff.
What is some vegan stuff? Some nice non-frothing at the mouth stuff.
Right, exactly.
No beef eating.
Right. So when it comes to the books that you've written, obviously they're all vegan, plant-based. Yeah. I mean, I guess the common question, this might be a difficult one, is, well, I mean, speed vegan is the one that's most popular because everything's 30 minutes or less, which makes sense. And right now, there's so many people home.
And also sit around.
Yeah. And right now, a lot of people are still home and they're doing a lot of cooking. So, what advice would you give to the people who need to be cooking, or actually, you know what, the ones that were like, I can't cook? Right? What advice do you give them? Because a lot of people are forced right now to cook, or they're ordering in, but really everybody has an opportunity to learn to cook, even if you follow the recipe T to T. Like I got whatever. And because I don't really follow recipes, I use them as a guide. I'm one of those people, right? But there's people who have to follow the recipe exactly.
Yeah, I don't read. I read a novel. It's like, oh, that's interesting. You never thought of that. But I don't use it in the kitchen because I know what I'm doing and I want to create something new. So if you want something new, you don't look at a book. But it's fair enough. Take a recipe. If you don't know what you're doing, I recommend highly learn knife skills. I should have brought a knife so I could show you. But anyway, very important. Learn how to use a knife so you don't cut yourself. And then when you get good at it, it won't be intimidating, first of all. But then also, when you get good at something, you naturally want to do it because you can, and because it feels great to be good at something. So there's that hurdle. I said, there's that little thing you have to get over from not knowing anything to knowing even just a little. Once you know just a little, then it becomes fun. And then when it becomes fun, then you do it a lot. And when you do a lot, you get even really good at it. So you can do it without even, it's not like, oh God, I got to do this. It's like, no, it's like, oh, I'll do this and I'll mix this with that. And you're in the supermarket and you're looking at, if you're smart, you're just in the vegetable section because all that other stuff is inedible. And you're thinking, oh, what if I put this with that, and this would be good with that, and then you're already getting creative. And everybody has creative ability. Everyone has it. So people think, oh, I'm not very creative. It's just you just haven't exercised that part of your brain. But food is something that there's a payoff for you. It's not like you got to learn pottery, which I've been doing lately, and it's fabulous. But where it's a skill that you have to develop, and there's a lot of pain and suffering when you're trying to get it where you can be good at it, and then finally you start to be good at it, and then it becomes fun. But food, you get to eat it every time, and you get to decide what goes in it. And if somebody else makes it, you go, well, I'm not really keen on cilantro, and they go, why not? I didn't understand this. I love cilantro. One of my sisters loves cilantro. My eldest sister hated it. I couldn't say, well, how could we love it and you hate it? Well, it turns out some people have a genetic thing where cilantro, which to me tastes vibrant, and to them it tastes like soap. And there's just no way they're ever going to love it. It's like any more you're going to love eating a bar of soap. It's just not going to happen. So when you're making your own food, you can create the flavors that you want to eat. And of course, fortunately, plants. Oh, there's something waving behind you. I think that's so interesting. There you go. Plants are the source of all the flavor and the subtlety of flavor. Meat is just meat. I don't know if you guys ever heard of the chef Jose Andres. He's very famous now because he's feeding the world. He's put crews together to feed the people from hurricanes and disasters, and now COVID-19. Wonderful guy, incredible guy. He was having an interview with Anderson Cooper one time, and the subject came up of meat. I don't know how it came up, and he said, "I don't like meat that much," and he was surprised because almost all of his recipes are meat. He's from Spain, ham and all that. And Anderson Cooper says, "Well, really?" He said, "Well, I eat it, but he said you put a piece of meat in your mouth and you chew it, and for 5 seconds you get this juices and the flavor." And then for 25 seconds, you're just chewing and chewing and chewing so you can swallow the bloody thing. And he said, you never get that with a strawberry. You never get that with an asparagus. Every bite, you're having this beautiful flavor. And I was like, what an incredible point. The flavor comes from the plants. And all the subtlety and variety and richness and all that comes from plants. That's why people want grass-fed meat, because it tastes better, I guess. So if you know what you like, but you don't know how to make it, just start somewhere. Just start. Get a vegan cookbook, because obviously that you're vegan. You get a vegan cookbook. You could get my cookbook, and I'd be so happy. My publisher would be so happy.
Yep.
Even my wife would be happy, because more money for me, more money for her. I put in there, I think it was in Speed Vegan actually, that, how did I put it? Behind every great man, there's a woman wishing he made more money. Anyway. Well, to be honest, she's the one that makes the money. She's the one that actually generates the most money. I'm a starving author, but I'm not starving because I cook it.
Right.
Anyway. Yeah. When you think about it, you get $1 a book or $2 a book. Right. You got to sell a lot of books to make a living.
Sell a lot of books.
So really, you have to do something else, and the book is really just because you want to share what you know.
It's a labor of love.
You want to help people.
Yeah.
It definitely is a labor of love, and I've been thrilled doing it. I mean, really changed my life entirely. Well, not my life, but my living space and activity. And I love going to events like Veg Fest and things, and speaking and demonstrating and teaching people, and people come to me afterwards, and that they tell me that I really helped them. It's like, wow, I never helped anybody except that, help these people eat. So anyway, back to you. What's going on in your life? I don't know what to suggest, except really rule number one of cooking. Rule number one, wash your hands. No, but rule number one is don't be intimidated. Right. Cooking is the most ancient activity of civilized human beings. There's a book called Cooking Made Us Human. And it's really, and in India, they have a saying that the difference between animals and human beings is that animals they have to eat whatever their food is. I mean, a lion has to go eat a gazelle, and each one is that's what it eats. That's all it gets. But human beings can create something special, so create some flavor and enjoy what they eat. And that's the difference. In India, they say that's the difference between animals and human beings. Other than that, there's basically no difference. And I agree. It's your privilege. When I was a kid, we visited all these ruins in Mexico. We traveled around all these different archaeological sites, and there would be different architecture, different shaped pyramids, or different kind of tombs and whatever. But the one thing that was common to all of them, places littered with pot shards. There's broken pottery everywhere in the dirt. Now I don't know if so much because tourists have been picking it up for decades. But we would see like different kinds of painting on it. Some of them were just earthenware with nothing on them. Some of them were kind of like, you could tell that they had done some glazing. What do you think they were doing with these pots? Cooking. That's what it's all about. So about taking something that you have to have and making it really good so you can enjoy it. And that's our birthright. That's, as human beings, we have that capability. And we also have it to choose what we're going to eat. We don't have to chase a gazelle down and just kill it and blood spurting. And we can actually take a little leaf and grind it up and mix it with something and put it with something. And that's good. Now, what if we add some of this? There you go. Okay, put that on there. And that's going to be good. That's a salad dressing. And okay, so now we just get all those leaves in there and mix it together. And you're enjoying what you eat. That's the whole thing. is to, I mean, you understand the purpose of life, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the purpose? What's the purpose? What are
Oh,
you
to be
after?
to be happy. That's my purpose.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So to me, if you make food that thrills your palate, that's going to emanate. Ooh, you're going to go, ooh, that's really good, and then you're like, this is great. I love this, and then you're happy, and that's the whole point. And if you can take that attitude into the kitchen and get to the point where you're enjoying the process as well as the result, then that happiness is extended beyond just the eating of the food. It's actually something that goes both ways, and I highly recommend it. Since there's only five things we need, right? Water, air, food, shelter, which includes security and a lot of stuff, and for lack of a better word, love or
Mhm.
that joy. There's only five things. If you don't have all of those, you wither and you die. So at least those five things, really good quality water, really good quality shelter. It doesn't have to be fancy, but something that really keeps you covered and really makes you feel good and safe and comfortable and happy. Just get those five things squared away. You don't need a new iPhone. You don't need a new car. You don't need to go out of your house necessarily, as we now know. But you do need those five things. So make them good, make it count. And food, think about this. I thought about this once when I was working with the millionaires because they just wanted to please this part right here. Just make this happy, and make so my stomach doesn't get too fat. What I do actually literally becomes their flesh, blood, and bones. This, what you put in your mouth, miraculously by some incredible alchemy, that goes in, and all the processes happen to break it down and go to the cells, and the cells know exactly what they need from it, how to use it, and what they don't need, they spit out and it goes away. Literally, you are physically what you eat. Not you, but your body is made out of what you eat. And everything is made out of dirt and water. Even every plant. I was watching my wife in the garden, and she's putting seeds in there, and each one would take from the same soil, same essential soil, exactly the components that it needed to become an asparagus or become zucchini. And it was fascinating. And we eat that, and we become what we become. And we actually have the opportunity that a lion does not have to cut out the middleman. Instead of letting some animal eat the plants and get all the pleasure of all that flavor and then just eat the animal, we can actually go straight to the source. And the variety is vast. I've been cooking for well over 30 years, and I'm still discovering new versions of things, new kinds of zucchini, new kinds of carrots, new kinds of. Did you know there's a black carrot? A black carrot is black, not purple, black, and the density of nutrients in that is incredible.
Oh,
Cook.
cook. Exactly. It's great advice. And don't be afraid of spices because that's
Oh,
going to
don't be
add
afraid.
flavor to your
No, spices.
spices are
Yeah,
important.
spices are plants.
Yep.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
I'll tell you another thing. When you go to like India or the cuisine, you don't have to go to India, but the cuisines, the old cuisines like Thai, Japanese, Chinese, the things they put in the food to make it taste good are every bit as much for health as it is for pleasure. The turmeric, all the cinnamon, clove, all healing herbs, ginger, garlic. It's all really good for you. So the more you can find ways to put it in your food, less bland, more exciting, the more you'll enjoy it, and the more your body will appreciate it because it'll give you more health.
Exactly. So, Alan, can you share with people
Exactly.
how they can find you and your books, and if they want to, buy anything or follow you? Can you share how to do that?
Well, there's first of all there's my website, which I'm going to update any day now. you saw there. The last one was like 5 years ago or something. But there's plenty of stuff there. AlanRettinger.com, and that's just my name.com. And you can go to my professional Facebook page, which is Alan Rettinger. If you want to find out, well, no, I don't want to lead you to my personal page because then we may get into politics. But yeah, follow me. Follow me on Facebook. Um, keep an eye out for any time the Veg Fest come back. I do kind of run the circuit. My publisher will sometimes send me, or if they're nearby. If anybody's in Colorado, they probably know me. Colorado Veg Fest. I always do a demo there. Send me an email if you like. I get few enough still that I can answer them all usually.
Instagram as well. You're on Instagram.
Have an eye out.
Yep.
Instagram, yeah. I just started Instagram. My son insisted, and I thought, okay, fine. It's good to have somebody young in your family to keep you active.
Yes, very good for somebody who cooks because it's a very photo-centric platform. And then your books are on virtualvegfest.com. I don't know if you know that, but Anna has added them to virtualvegfest.com. So if you want to buy your books, you can actually get them at Virtual Veg Fest.
Buy it there, or you can buy it on my website. But
exactly.
Either way, I get the royalty either way.
Exactly, and it supports plant-based network.
I would say support this network here, and if you want to buy books I would say visit your local independent bookstore. They are a dying business, and they need our support. I know it's cheaper to go to Amazon, but if you can, always support the local business because that's real people, and they have, you'll see staff picks.
Mm-hmm.
People who read, people who love books.
Yes,
they'll recommend books, and you don't see that everywhere.
That's true. We have Firestone Books out of Asheville. Yeah, Firestone Books out of Asheville is on virtualvegfest.com. They're one of our vendors that come to multiples of our events, and they are a local small bookstore that we love supporting, and we're glad that they're a part of this. And of course, Book Publishing Company and you and the other authors that we were involved with and have had on this platform. And I really appreciate your joining us and sharing a lot about you. You're incredibly eclectic. You've got a varied background. And your personality comes through the computer. So, and I just want to say thank you to everyone else who spent their time with us on this Saturday. They've come in and out, even though we haven't any comments or questions. We know that some of you were there, so thank you. And then next week, we'll have 2 talks, one on Thursday, one on Saturday. Thursday is actually going to be a little bit of a counseling session with Dan and April. So if you're an activist and you want ways to figure out how to get some zen and peace, and you're dealing with some depression and being locked at home and everything that's going on, I want to tune in on Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And then Saturday we got Karen Ramsey. So if you like raw food or you're thinking about becoming a raw foodist, she is the raw food queen, and she'll be with us at 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Saturday. So other than that, Alan, thank you. Enjoy your day because you've got your whole day to go, whereas it's almost 5 p.m. here because you're in Colorado. You've got some time. And everyone else, have a great rest of your day.
Oh, yeah. I got plans.
Bye, everyone.